Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Behind the Dice here on Cabot Crossing Publishing. Today, we are going to talk about the D&D killers or challengers, whatever you want to call them. But can any of these RPGs take the epic fantasy crown? So I don't know if you follow the news or not, but D&D, of course, is the godfather of role-playing games. But ever since some controversial moves by Wizards of the Coast, people have been talking about a D&D killer, someone to take down or replace or an alternative to D&D. And there's been a lot of new competitors for that epic fantasy RPG genre lately. And I guess the question is, will any of these last long term or just fade away? Will any of them become as big as D&D? Or any of them going to replace D&D for us, or at least be a strong second game for us? And that's what we're going to tackle today and give our thoughts. And you can give your thoughts in the comments too. And before we dive into too much, I just want to say, if you like this video, please subscribe so you can check out other episodes of Behind the Dice as they're released. And also we have our actual play series, GenrePlay, that you'll see all of our faces on many of those. And also Chaz edits those. And we have other great shows too, like Genretainment and Genre Talk. So let's begin this discussion. We probably should define what someone needs to do to be a D&D challenger, right? Who are they getting? Because it's not everybody. You know, some people don't play D&D at all. So to me, go ahead. Go ahead, Greg.
No, I was going to say, yeah, there's definitely a shoe to fill when it comes to being a quote unquote D&D killer, because we know that Pathfinder was the killer of 4, right? The 3.5 was big. 4 came out, and Pathfinder was actually the D&D killer of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then 5 came out, and there was something about 5 that not everyone, but most people liked more than Pathfinder. I think it was mainly just they simplified it, to be honest, in my opinion. They simplified it in a way that it could expand to more people. Maybe. I could be wrong about that. Streamline things.
They streamlined it and got away from miniatures, so heavy on miniatures.
Yeah. And I think it's something with that middle ground that they really capitalized on that helped them a lot, without it needing to be, with it still having those war game elements that everyone likes. I mean, Warhammer 40K is huge, right? For a reason. And it has a bit of that people like, because it did originally come from war games, I suppose. So I think it has that middle ground between all those things that D&D 5e took off. And so I think the killer has to also try to conquer that and bring something better in some way.
Yeah. I would say, I would define this as an audience. You tell me if I'm missing anything or I'm incorrect. But I would say they need to target, current D&D players. It needs to be like diehard D&D players need to go, oh, I want to play this instead. And then you need to target new players before they get into D&D or some other game, and be new player friendly too, right? At least that's what I think. Anybody else you think would be good to target, or what do you think?
I think that's it. I don't think the D&D killer, for instance, could target rules light people. I don't think D&D will ever pull in those people per se. I don't think. They're kind of, I don't want to say a different breed of person, but the people like the rules light and they like their D&D like. And some people like both. Some people like one or the other, but they're not really like. I don't think a D&D killer is going to be able to latch on to rules light fully and be like, that's what's going to take over D&D.
Well, let me. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there's not going to be. I don't think D&D will ever go away. I don't think there will be a D&D killer. There will be systems that come. There have been many systems that have come that things that come to mind are like Savage Worlds and more recently Shadow Dark, which I actually got to play recently, and I really liked it because I am one of those people who enjoys the rule of lights. I have these attributes. I have an understanding as a player what these attributes mean. I tell the GM narratively what it is that I want to do. I'm not saying I want to use this skill because I'm good at it. I say, I want to do this thing. And then the GM says, based on how competent you are in these areas, should I even make you roll? In some cases, I don't even need to make you roll. And so you have the people who like to roll dice, which I am. I am one of those people who like to roll dice. Don't get me wrong. But I also think that if I am a super sneaky, stealthy, dexterous, Dexy character, I shouldn't have to roll Dexy. I'm a Dex, I shouldn't have to roll every time I try to walk into a room quietly. Right? Like there should be something narratively that says, okay, is there something in this room that would potentially cause me to make noise? Whereas I think traditional D&D players are going to be like, I'm going to be stealthy, and they're already rolling that stealth roll before the DM even calls for it because they're just programmed to do that.
And they're like, I've spent my resources, I spent my points, I got it in stealth. I'm going to roll my damn stealth, even if you want it or not.
And then they roll a 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the point?
Yeah. Yeah, Batman never rolls a 1. Did you ever see Batman like try to sneak up and Commissioner Gordon's like, I see you. Come on.
So
it's been a bad day.
And this is coming from someone who likes all systems. Like if you watch any of these, previous videos that we've done, I've been all in on many of the Kickstarters, and I've backed a lot of the systems, and I've played them, and the one that I've played the most and I've stuck with longest is D&D. But we tend to, as we get experience as players and as GMs, and Greg can attest to this, is he doesn't always make you roll, and it's not always about making skill checks just for the sake of making skill checks. Now, of course, if someone wants to do that, we inject elements of fun. Like we have one of the guys that we play with where he likes to gamble, and so we like come up with gambling games in D&D just so we can make stuff random and roll dice. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know. To answer the question is what is it that a D&D player is looking for that they're not already getting in D&D? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know.
And that's why I think it has to be something new, right? It has to be something that's new enough to bring people into it, because it's not impossible to happen. It happened once already, technically, right?
Yeah.
But 5e is a much better game than 4e.
But I think that was a byproduct more so of them making such drastic changes to the system and trying to go in a different direction, which is why they came full circle back to 5e and made it more like advanced D&D, because they shot themselves in the foot with 4th edition. And so now it's, I thoroughly enjoy Daggerheart. I like it mostly because I like in my mind, the simplicity of it. Rules light, for however you want to put it. You're not constantly, talking about skills. You're just telling what you
out of combat. It's rules light.
Yeah.
In combat, I feel Daggerheart's not rules light. It's like it does both depending on what you're doing in it.
That's true. It is crunchy in combat, but they're getting better about that, right? Like they're having less math
for sure.
And I like the D12. I like the hope and fear system. I like that you will crit more, but not always necessarily. I mean, like we crit a lot in one session and the next not so much. So it feels. But to say that it's going to be something that replaces D&D, I don't know. That's a stretch for me to say. And then similarly for like DC 20, where we just rolled up characters prior to us doing this behind the dice. There's a lot going on in character creation. And I know some people really like that. I know people like choosing skills and customizing their character. And I think that's more of a D&D-ish system, and it's definitely for people who like math and like numbers.
But if even then, if people like math and numbers, they usually will like Pathfinder more, even, right?
Yeah, it's even more numbers.
Yeah, like and you can't call Pathfinder a D&D killer, obviously, because if it were, it would have already. Like Pathfinder 2 would have already done it if it were going to, right?
No, I think Pathfinder filled the niche for people who really liked 3.5 D&D
3.5.
and wanted to stay with that and despised fourth edition. And the people who still play D&D are traditional, like either it's because it's the biggest role-playing game, it was the easiest way for them to get into it, or it was people like me who traditionally playing D&D, so I stayed with D&D.
But even the Pathfinder 1 people, I think a lot of them migrated to 5e as well. It wasn't like,
oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask, do you find that Pathfinder is more accessible as a role-playing game than D&D? If you wanted to get in, like, you want to get in the dungeon, you wanted to get into role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games, what's there more of? What is there more readily available? Like, if you go online, what are you going to find if you try to find a group online to start playing a role-playing game?
5e.
Right. Because, in the number of people that I've met who got into tabletop role-playing because they played this really hugely popular video game that I don't know we want to talk about or not, but it may rhyme with
we talk about Fallout,
Baldur's Fate. Right. And they play, because of how much they enjoyed playing that PC game, they now want to roll dice.
Yeah, I think that was a big help for it.
Huge.
I think it was too. I think it was huge
for it. Yes.
And funny enough, the people who made Baldur's Gate 3 say they don't want to keep using the system.
Yeah.
They say it's not great for video games, I guess, but it was kind of funny. They couldn't make it work past 12th level.
I wanted to mention real quick, because we in the community section of the YouTube channel, we have polls. And I did do a poll a couple months back.
Oh, I didn't know.
And yeah, not very many people voted, but we had a few people, so it was interesting to get feedback. And I did not put DC-20 on it. I don't know why. I don't think we'd played it yet. And then maybe because Kickstarter hadn't happened, I didn't realize how big it was going to get, because a lot of people weren't talking about DC-20 right away until it launched. So I had, out of that, I have a handful of votes, which I think you can still vote for if you're watching this and you want to put in your comments your opinion. Right now, Tales of the Valiant and Blades in the Dark, which I put in there, were zeros percentages. Dungeon World, 13%. I was surprised. That was interesting.
Dungeon World.
And then, remember we played Maze World? That's a PBTA game. Maze World is based off of Dungeon World.
Okay.
It's like D&D with powered by the Apocalypse rules light. And I was surprised someone actually, or maybe more than one person like that. And then Pathfinder was 38% and Daggerheart was 50%. So, unfortunately, I didn't have DC-20 in there, or some other games too. There's plenty of cool games.
Yeah. So I will say this about Daggerheart and DC-20, because I'm on both their Discords. I'm involved in both their Discords to some degree, mainly in the homebrewing of DC-20. But Daggerheart isn't that active. I was kind of weirded out by it. I went to their maybe they just don't advertise it enough or something. I went to the Discord, not very active at all. And that's for all of Darentine Press, by the way. It's a Discord for Darentine Press. Maybe that's why, actually. But DC-20, on the other hand, is one of the most active Discords I've ever seen. It's super active, and just the people who do speak a lot. Kind of thing, like the people who are into it are really into it.
I wonder if that has to do with it being a Kickstarter versus Daggerheart being a
published
product.
Could be.
It could be, but they did do an open beta, so you think that would create interest. But maybe because there's a lull now between the beta and then the release, there's not a lot to talk about.
I know people get crazy amped up about Kickstarters. I'm one of those people. I'm actually like in AA for it. I was like Kickstarter for a while. Like, seriously, I mean, when I say I backed everything that was a role-playing game that came out on Kickstarter, I did. The Avatar, the Altered Carbon, the not Shadowrun. What am I thinking of? Blade Runner. Like, if it was a popular fiction and it came out with a role-playing game, I own it. And the only ones I played multiple times to this point are Daggerheart and DC-20. And and I don't even own them. You know, I've played their beta more. I take that back. I did play the Avatar multiple times.
We played it at my house once.
Yeah, we did play it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to play it.
Yeah, and then I mean, so
okay.
let's add that to the list. Let's give that a run. You know, see, but I can tell you that I don't think that's not going to be a D&D killer.
Well, no.
I mean, that
Yeah.
system in general.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I think the only one that actually has a chance, and this is just a chance, and I won't even say it's a killer, but just a large market share, let's say, right?
Right.
Would be DC-20 when it comes out, when it actually comes out. Maybe Daggerheart, but I don't know. It's just I don't see the enthusiasm for it that I do for DC-20. And that might just be because the dungeon coach for DC-20 YouTube's every day. You join his Patreon, you can watch him develop the system. There's a lot of actual social media hype around it, if you call YouTube social media. And whereas Daggerheart doesn't really have that, right? They live stream here and there, but that's about it. So maybe that's what the difference is. I don't know. I think DC of all the ones we've talked about, Tales of the Valiant is basically 5e, and
Yeah,
it doesn't.
we did that.
anything.
We did a genre play of Tales of the Valiant.
Yeah,
yeah.
It just doesn't add anything. It's so similar to 5e that you can literally use 5e classes in that system, right?
Yeah, so I backed that in Kickstarter. I've actually backed their newest one too. I just can't quit them.
Yeah, both of you need to go to that meeting together.
No,
I haven't backed a Kickstarter in a while, so I'm very proud that
I'm getting ready to back a
I'm
Monster
impressed.
or the Week one that's about to start. A backer kit. But anyway, Tales of the Valiant. I was really excited about that. That was a big response to the whole OGL controversy.
Yeah,
thing. With Black Flag and stuff, and I was really excited about it. But yeah, when we played it, I mean, I enjoyed us playing it, but it was just so similar. And, you know, I got the player's handbook.
Like you enjoyed 5e.
Yeah, I got the player's handbook, GM book. I'm like, yeah, it's basically I just bought these books again almost.
Right. And honestly, if you're looking for 5e but a little bit better, you'll just get 5e 2024. Right?
Good, yeah.
I'll be curious to see, because you said you feel that a lot of Pathfinder players have gravitated towards 5e.
Pathfinder 1 gravitated
Pathfinder
towards
1
5e. Yeah.
to 5e. I'll be curious to see if that as the similar audience goes towards DC-20 for the same reason.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I feel like with Pathfinder, I'm betting that the reason why some people didn't go to second edition is because it got a lot crunchier, a little more complicated. And maybe they were tempted by the 5e streamline, or maybe you're just talking about when 5e came out.
I think they were into the 5e streamline. It was new, something to try, and it was streamlined. Pathfinder 1 is, I want to call it clunky. It's just when you get into it, you're like, show me what I can do. And this truck pulls up and just dumps a bunch of crap on you. You're like, oh God, I don't know where to start. Right? Like
it's a lot.
So much content and so many rules for
a lot of people feel that way about 5th edition D&D.
Yeah. But if you feel that way about 5th edition D&D, oh boy, Pathfinder 1 is going to crush you.
So that's why I think, while I like DC-20, for that portion of the audience who think if it's a lot to take in 5e, they're going to feel even more so about DC-20. Yeah. That's just my initial impressions, having made 2 characters and having played 3 sessions of it. And again, everything has a learning curve. But what is it? The action economy is something that you have to get used to, because there's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of things.
I think it's
I think it's in a good way. I do. I think it's just I don't know that it's gonna. I don't think people are gonna jump to it from 5e. Like,
it's more complicated than 5e in some ways, but it's less complicated than Pathfinder 2e. So I don't know where it fits in the whole thing.
I feel like it fits somewhere in between. I haven't looked at the new rules of D&D. I haven't seen what the changes are?
It's not a big deal. I mean, you can now get like specialized feats based on your background and stuff now, or stuff like that. You know, they just tweak things like that.
And they took a lot of, I think, what were already people were doing as homebrew and made it like official rules.
Okay.
Like that's the impression I got watching some of those videos. Is like, I know a lot of people already homebrew this. Well, now it's in the book. You know?
And they balanced everything. You can't just be a barbarian, a variant human barbarian at level 1 doing great weapon master and just doing 5 times more damage than everyone else anymore.
Yeah.
Which was kind of ridiculous. And then the same with sharpshooters, same with paladins with their smites going crazy. Smites gone wild. They've balanced all that. They probably nerfed the paladin too much, but
and I think that's a good thing. I mean,
know.
get rid of all the cheese, you know, because we've all been at a table where someone shows up with that broken min-max character, and they're a one-trick pony, and
it's not even
so
fun.
It's not fun. They're so predictable. You know what they're going to do every single turn. They do it so well, and everyone else is just like, this guy.
Or you could be a complete asshole of a DM, and when that player comes and talks to you about this character that's completely OP, you as a DM make it an NPC that attacks them. Because I totally didn't do that.
No, that would never happen. But I mean,
like,
taste of your own medicine. Yeah, like, oh, I love this character. Yeah, there's going to be a party of them, and you versus them. Let's go.
But no, I don't know. One thing I'll say DC20 has over 5e is 5e feels very much like you can go look up at a guide and figure out how to make the best version of a certain class, right? And that is like part of it is I'm going to make this character that's really good at stealth and is going to focus on that. And they even give the rogue, they give them attributes to make it like that. Whereas DC20 feels much more, doesn't matter too much. Like you can make anything your prime. You know,
so earlier when we were building these characters and I was looking at all the maneuvers I have to choose from, and I'm like, oh, these maneuvers for the grapple are really cool, but I'm not might base.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that's not based on your prime.
Yeah, so like if my prime is not in this wheelhouse, then
he doesn't want to do it for everything. I get where he's going with it, but DC20
to that point, he has a class and an ancestry that does all of that grapple stuff with their brain.
Yep.
So
if you want to go that way,
which I played, and so
so
that was really cool. Like
Tales of the Valiant, I think we all agree, pretty much has no chance of being a D&D killer. I don't even think it distinguishes it enough to take a significant market share, in my opinion.
I can't speak to it.
Your platform for a game can't be, we're not screwing you with an OGL. That can't be the platform. It has to be something more than that, right?
Yeah, that's most players don't care or know about it, unfortunately. So,
I mean, it was bad. They basically tried to steal all the third-party content from people, and that's no bueno.
I think in defense of Tales of the Valiant, I think as a long game, depending on what D&D does later down the road, it could pay off for them a little bit. At least gives them security, so they don't lose their whole back catalog or become uncompatible. But it's not. I wish there was more changes. And the new Labyrinth book that they're coming out with at least is giving more setting, like original setting content. And maybe once they do that with more options that are unique, it may become more interesting or of an alternative.
Maybe. I'm curious because I don't think people went to Pathfinder. The one example we have of actual D&D killer, I don't think people went to Pathfinder for the setting though. I think they went for the system.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, I know a lot of influencers tried to shift over to Pathfinder for a little bit there when that happened. Some of them shifted back.
Critical Role was Pathfinder until the day they started Critical Role and they switched to 5e.
Yeah, well, it makes sense for recognition. But I when I played first edition Pathfinder, I did like the world. Those adventure paths. I think that's another thing people don't think about. It's not just what they did with the rules.
That's true.
With Pathfinder, it's also they have those adventure paths and subscriptions you can do and stuff. That was very new at the time. Not a lot of people were doing those. I don't know if anybody really still does it. But I think if you're a fan of that, it's great to always get constant content and new campaigns and stuff.
Well, they have Paizo has both my favorite setting and least favorite game system, which is the
With Starfinder.
Starfinder setting is amazing, and I hate the rules.
Well, the second edition Starfinder is second edition Pathfinder. They're making them compatible now, so
Okay,
because they
maybe I'll look
realized
into it then.
that they should be compatible. So
Yeah. Even Dimension 20, when they were going to start a sci-fi thing, they looked at Starfinder, they're like, we're not using this. And then they went with Star Wars 5e, actually. Even though it wasn't Star Wars, they just used the rules for their sci-fi setting.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
all right, so Tales of the Valiant, we think I like the luck point rules. I mean, that's like a small homebrew thing, but I
That's
think
what a lot of people homebrewed, yeah.
Yeah, I think it kind of added something. Did you like that, Chaz? The luck points in Tales of the Valiant? Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, that was helpful. The other thing I liked about Tales of the Valiant, and I watched a little bit of a video about this. Is about how yes, it's 5e, but things are kind of ramped up. Heroes have more hit points. Heroes can do more damage. Monsters can do more damage back to you. You have a little bit more oomph to your skills. So your first level character doesn't feel like you're wandering around in the field with a loincloth with a stick. When you go to do something, you're effective at first level. And when you get like the second level, then you're really, you're ramping up even more, and you can really go to town at like second and third level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
And the luck points was great, so that you use them and regain them with, relative ease, and it helps you to be able to, be a little bit more successful with die rolls and yada yada.
Yeah, it helps you feel like when you fail, there's still a plus side to failing, right? Because you get a luck point at least, which I think is what some other game systems are trying to do with like. There's what? Oh man, I should have looked it up because that is one we have no experience with.
Monster of the Week?
No, MCDM or whatever it's called. That game.
Matt Colville's?
Yeah. Which I feel bad. I don't know nothing. I know nothing
the
about
guy
it.
likes 4E the best. Don't even bother.
Yeah. But in his game, one thing I've heard is that like every attack hits always. So to make you feel like, everything matters, right? So I feel like that's what the luck point system is trying to do in a different way. So
I'll be a little contrary here. I wasn't a big fan of luck points, to be honest. I thought they were another accounting thing that made very little difference. The maybe because I got lucky and I didn't actually miss much in that campaign. I think I was rolling ridiculous if I remember right. But every time it was like, do I have a luck point? Did I actually miss? Oh, those last 4 I forgot about. Did I actually get a luck point from those? And it was the same problem that Daggerheart had with trying to remember what you rolled and stuff like that. But almost worse. I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of it. It didn't really get in the way too much, but it's just another accounting thing to pull you out of the game sometimes, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I understand. All right, so let's try to hit each one a little bit more after Tales of Valiant. Let's talk about Daggerheart then. We played plenty of Daggerheart now. So and we touched a little bit on it. You just talked about one negative is the bookkeeping sort of the counting.
And they did fix a lot of that now with the latest rules that they haven't published yet, but they had a live stream about it. So using the new stuff they talked about in their live stream that we tried to homebrew ourselves and kind of do it. I think Daggerheart's great, actually. I'm still the type of person who likes skills.
Yeah, I do too.
But
obviously Call of Cthulhu, right? So
it's all skills. But
and
that
if
being
you
said,
are the type of person that likes skills, you can have your experiences be skills.
Oh, I mean, they are skills, effectively, right? But you have to spend a hope to do it, and you don't build your character around those experiences, Like it's not like I'm gonna make a character and make my experience do that one good thing that the character does. I don't know. You could, but Daggerheart feels more like for people who like D&D, like combat, and that is strategic. But when they're role playing, like Pat was saying earlier, don't want these skills to get in the way. Just let the game flow. If they're good at sneaking, just let them sneak. Don't even have them roll. And don't let the dice get in the way of the narrative, and let the dice come in when it matters, but usually don't let it get in the way of the narrative, right? I think Daggerheart's perfect for that. I just don't think it's the 5e crowd, in my opinion.
I feel like
it's the
it's the PBTA or Blades of the Dark crowd with more tactical stuff.
Yeah.
Tactical rules. I think they're trying to.
Fine. I mean, I think it's a great system. Actually, I think it's one of the most innovative systems that have come out recently. Honestly,
yeah, it does try different stuff. So I have to and iterates quite quickly.
And iterates well. Like they really listen to feedback amazingly. Actually,
yeah, I've never
every
seen
single time it was just like,
fast.
yeah, that is the thing we were complaining about.
Yeah,
but I
don't
think
need an abacus anymore. Yay!
But I am concerned about lack of. Well, we've had some of her comments and like, hey, somebody's finally talking about daggerheart again. I do worry about because Candela Obscura, which is another game they came out with before, it hasn't really taken off.
Well, Critical Role has their problem, which is their main campaign led by Matt Mercer is their big selling thing, and everything else they do has pretty much bad reviews. Like and they're good. If you go and watch their other streams, I've watched almost all of them, and they're good. Like I don't get it personally, but that's where they are. Unfortunately, is that one narrative style that Matt Mercer does with those players is what sells, and I don't think the games are necessarily what are selling for them.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a marketing thing. I don't know, because it is a really unique, fun system that you won't play like any other system. I mean, what system do you know that's D12 based? Not that that's a selling point,
but so in DC,
so it's great. I like it, but I don't think it's a D&D killer. Just because it's not.
I like it. I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna play it, but I don't know how much of the quote unquote market share it's going to steal from D&D.
Yeah, I think it might steal market share from other rules light games.
Maybe. Yeah. I think, and again, it's setting. I think will help play a factor, and if Critical Role does actual plays,
if Critical Role picks it up as their main game,
yeah,
I think it has a chance of taking market share. I'm actually dubious of that. I don't know. I think, did we talk about it? Was it with you? I was talking about how it has a silly problem. That it's
I don't know.
It's hard to have like this gritty, like you're going down the street and you see a beggar and he's bleeding from his eye as he's taking his drug. And I turn up with my ribbit guy and go, ribbit. And my mushroom cap guy, he comes over and starts talking to the mushrooms around the guy. And it's like, it has a bit of a branding problem, I think, with being silly. Even when their players play it, it becomes silly. And that's just not going to get.
Well, it's
fun a little bit, but
when you think about Vox Machina, can be kind of silly sometimes, but then very dark. He swings and tones quite a bit.
Yeah, they're very dark, and it's just too fluffy and light with the setting. I think with the races. I mean, almost all the races are weird. Like not weird as in like, why did you do that? But just like they're not normal. For a good dark setting.
Well, and part of that's there's no setting, right? So it's like the frog people, they're called ribbits or something. I'm like, if you had original setting, you might have picked a different name than ribbit. Right. But because they don't know what the back of it is, just it's a frog person, right? It's a beastkin, basically, like in Tales of the Valiant.
It's just something with their labeling, their ancestry choice or heritage choices, whatever they call it. Something with that leads it to be less serious, I think, and that's a problem it's going to have, I think, because less serious only gets you so far.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where it lands. What do you think, Chaz, about Daggerheart? What's your final thoughts on that?
Wrap us up.
Daggerheart. I like all of it, except for, as I've talked about before, the damage allocation system. I've mentioned on every behind the dice we've done, so I don't feel any need to
extra layer.
I don't feel any need to rehash that. But if you want to hear what I had to say, go watch the other behind the dice right now.
Check it out.
Just pause this, open a new tab, and then or go find it. Left or right click on open a new tab.
But hey, if you subscribe or ring that bell, smash that bell. It's great too.
But to Greg's earlier point, they have made changes based on that feedback. Like your feedback, Chaz, was, I don't want to have to do all this math to figure out how many hit points of damage I'm going to take. And they're like, okay, well, you don't have to do that as much anymore. It's, you
Just
either,
reduce the severity now.
you either use this resource or you use this resource now. You're choosing between resources as
Yeah.
opposed to doing a whole
Yeah,
bunch.
Yeah,
of math.
they
did
improved
improve
it. but-
They have listened to my wisdom.
100%. It was all you, Chaz.
I am now the influencer for tabletop role playing games.
This sounds like a sophisticated Arnold now. But what's the next
So
one?
DC 20, DC 20. We mentioned a little bit already. What's our thoughts about DC 20? I
I
will
like
say
I've said a ton about it already.
I will say for me,
I know.
that is the one I'm probably of the ones we played so far of this list. I think that is the one I'm most excited about because it's still being changed and growing and stuff. And I feel like it's also a little more, as we're doing with Star Wars, it's a little more friendly to other game worlds and stuff. You can shift it and mess with it. Like Daggerheart would be a bit more challenging.
Yeah,
to get
that's
around.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I think that's a big strength for it, and because I could very easily see, especially if he uses the ORC license or Creative Commons or something, it could grow from there, balloon from there into other games, which I think is a crucial part if you want to compete with D&D.
He even said, which was interesting, that he would even come with some type of sharing of profit or something like that. Like you could build it off his thing, and he would actually incentivize you with some monetarily somehow based on your sales or something like that. Like if it went back and got them to buy the core rules to do it or something like that. I thought that was interesting.
That could be interesting. Yeah.
I'm not sure how you can make that work, but if you can, that's a good idea.
I'm not sure. But yeah, it's just, I think there's possibilities there with it that are exciting. I think it's close enough to D&D that I could see people jump and ship to D&D potentially, or at least sometimes to do it. At least it's more exciting than, say, Tales of the Valiant, where it's just like, oh, it's basically turned out to be the same thing.
Optimized D and 5e. No.
Yeah.
I do
know,
agree with that, though. The low
it's
levels.
similar. It's similar enough and different enough that I think it would be more of a draw. Whereas Daggerheart is so different. And like you said, you made a great point where it doesn't take itself as serious, like with the classes and well, not the classes, but the ancestry or heritage, whatever.
Heritage, I think.
Heritages and backgrounds, yeah. But yeah, I mean, for someone who wants to, and like you said, like that's what we're doing with it. What is reskinning it, putting it in a galaxy far, far away, and a long time ago.
Long.
And then let's see. Okay, so then can we go in a different direction? Can we do like what Savage World is known for, where I can now do we'll do like a gangster theme, and it'll be like we're in New Jersey and we're the Sopranos, and we're gonna role play being that crew, or you're gonna do something, the name this came up earlier, Indiana Jones type thing, where you're gonna be like group of archaeologists who are going on this adventure, like Pulp Fiction type stuff,
Yeah.
Because people like those genres, right? It doesn't always have to be dragons and wizards, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I like that.
Yeah. The 3.5 had all those spin-offs. Remember, you had like
D20 Modern.
D20 Modern was one.
Yeah. Superheroes, right?
Yeah, superheroes. That's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Oh, Means of Masterminds, or Silver Age Sentinels was another one too.
Yeah, they had lots of spin-offs.
Yeah, which I think DC20 can do that. As long as he doesn't lock down those rules too much, he needs to have something to help. I almost think nowadays, if you want your rules to grow beyond just a few core books, you almost have to go open license of some sort. Whether it's more limited, like I think Savage Worlds does, where you have to get permission and stuff, or something more like ORC, OGL type stuff. So, because people like to tinker, we like to tinker too. So,
Yes.
I was actually surprised how easy DC20 was to extend to a different genre.
Yeah, and I could see it working like D20 Modern, or Everyday Heroes is a game that backed on Kickstarter that was kind of like D20 Modern 4.5e. And I can see DC20 doing that. If you limit it 10 levels and you have now they have that rank or level 0 and novice too.
Yeah, novice levels.
Perfect for that setting. So that's what I'm excited about. I think it's,
do you think, how much of that do you think is you having played other Star Wars? You played Star Wars 5e, and like, this isn't your first rodeo, like playing a system and adapting it because they did such a good job with that. I mean, let's face it, like Star Wars 5e.
Star Wars 5e was really
well
good,
done.
though it was years and years of work.
Yeah,
and
still,
I will say, in terms of adaptability, it was 1,000 times easier than Star Wars 5e was, because the thing with DC20 is that it's I don't know if I can explain this well. One, the skills are generic, so you don't need to add skills. You can just add professions most of the time, trades and stuff. The other thing is, because you're picking your prime stat, in a weird way, that opens things up a lot, because each of the classes are not like, here's your specific list of things you get. It's more like, okay, I'm going to be the class with this prime. I'm going to have these skills. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to be this class. You can pick that at the end, right? It's like almost like a last minute thing. It makes the class way less important, actually, in DC20 versus 5e. And so Star Wars 5e actually had to make all these different classes to deal with the Star Wars universe. Whereas in DC20, you can just pick a prime and flavor it the way you want.
Yeah, that's exactly how it worked out. Is like you were talking about your character as a concept, as opposed to, I feel like I want to play a bard this time, so this is how I'm going to optimize a bard. It was, I want to play a droid. This is where we're going to be. Then how do I build the character? Like, and the class came later. It was like, well, it could be like any of these 3 classes really, but this one just seems like it's the best fit, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like an afterthought. Well, not an afterthought, but yeah, it's what's funny, in his live streams, it always comes up. I don't know why, but it's like, how would you make a DBZ character in DC20, right? A Dragon Ball Z character. And every time I'm just like, well, that's a might-based sorcerer, just going, with some spell, right? I'm like,
just saying,
But yeah, I don't know. DC20 is in a way, I don't know if he did it on purpose. Maybe he did, but in a weird way, it's very extensible, which is its strength. I think it has a chance of taking a pretty big market share. But again, we have 2 levels, so who knows after we get 4 and then 6, then 10.
Right.
Yeah, when it gets more locked in, and then if he decides he wants to keep a tight control of the rules or something, it might kill some excitement, and who knows what.
And that might be why it's more extensible, because I'm only dealing with 2 levels.
Right? But I gotta think he has that in mind. He has that in mind for the people who play 5e and they only play level 21 shots. Like, he has to have that in mind, right? So
I think the thing that helped
people who want to build the min-maxiest level 20 super powerful godlike character, like, he has to know people want to do that. So
to your point, I think he actually started DC20 because he just homebrewed 5e so much that it started to look like DC20, right? And that's how he got started with it. And then the OGL thing happened, and instead of just doing a supplement to 5e, he decided to make his own system. That's like the origin story of DC20.
Sure. Seems like a natural, like a very organic progression, right?
Right. So I think someone who comes into a system because they homebrewed another one so much, it leads them to make a system that's less specific and more open for changes, perhaps, or something like that. Is maybe we can hope. I don't know. But I don't know. I agree. It's probably the best chance of taking market share from 5e.
We'll see. I wouldn't have said that before the Kickstarter, because there wasn't a lot of people talking about it before the Kickstarter.
I remember you told me about it, and it was like 2 weeks before the Kickstarter was over. I'm like, DC, what? And then 8 hours before, I bought the Kickstarter before it ended.
Yeah, he did a great job marketing and networking and stuff. And because it was like, was it over 2 million, something like that?
Yeah. And I'll say, I think people are invested in Dungeon Coach too. People who play Daggerheart don't play it because they're invested in Critical Role too much. I think they play it because they're interested in a new system, and they watch Critical Role, right? They enjoy it. But they saw Critical Role play it, and maybe that's why they're playing it. Whereas Dungeon Coach actually has a following way before he made a system. And I think that helps him to some degree. And you got his personal story into it. I mean, he almost went broke making the system and doing the Kickstarter.
We all need cool nicknames. What would your nickname be, Greg?
Gerg. Well, yeah, Gerg. It's happening.
It'd be like Gerg 20.
Oh yeah, to your point, Greg, is I definitely did not play Daggerheart because of Critical Role. That had I mean, that was like a night, like when someone was like, "Oh, did you know that's the system that Matt Mercer and crew are creating to potentially replace 5e in their online streaming?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I did." Like, okay, cool. I just wanted to try a new system, and it it's fun. And the whole conversation about like, well, what's going to replace D&D is, they're not doing themselves favors with how they've been managed. And if I had to choose, like if I was one of those people who was like, take this because of what you did, I mean, I could see DC 20 being that one, that thing that it's an easy enough transition, and it's different enough where it feels cool. Like change is cool, right?
Yeah.
For most people feel that way. Like, oh, this is new, and I don't know that it's necessarily improved. It's just different in a way that makes it fun.
Yeah. I'll say another aspect of this whole thing is Pathfinder defines everything. Like if you want to grapple, let me tell you, you got options. Here's this 3-page flow chart, and you can figure out what you want to do. Okay. Like it has options for everything. It's like you're taking fall damage. Oh, you're hitting 3 things on the way down. Well, let me calculate that damage for you. It's like whatever. Like there's rules for every little thing. Rules Light obviously doesn't do that. It's just like make it up. use your brain. The 5e is right in the middle, I think, where it doesn't define everything too much. Some people want it more defined. Some people like Rules Light and like how it is, whatever. I can't really think of an example of something in 5e, but like the crafting system in 5e is very undefined, at least compared to Pathfinder, which is extremely defined on how to craft things. 5e is pretty undefined and leaves it up to interpretation, whatever. DC 20 leans more towards the Pathfinder thing, where it's like, I want to create a rule for everything that you could possibly do. But to its benefit, it does in a way it's like, but it's probably going to be as you think it is because it's intuitive and everything's kind of done the same way.
Right. And you just spend a resource to do these very specific things. Right.
You know what the resource is probably going to be. You know it's probably going to be something that does better every 5 over you roll. You probably know it's going to be a roll that you can do worse or better than.
And what's cool about the system is because of the action economy is if you try to do one of those things and you fail, you still have other things you can do. And you have ways of doing it better.
Mitigating.
That's what you want to, right. Exactly. Mitigating the failures.
But I do think it's in the more defined, it's more in the rules for everything that you might possibly want realm, which might put some people off.
Yeah. So those are a lot of the main games. Sounds like so far DC 20 is one of the ones. Well, Chaz, what do you think DC 20? I don't know if you said. Does it excite you?
No, beg pardon?
Does it excite you? Is it Dexy? Real Dexy? I like that word.
I'm having fun with it. For me, for whatever reason, I don't know why. Character creation and picking skills and everything was a little confusing for me tonight. It was easier. I don't know why. Again, I don't know why. It was easier when I was making Giacomo. I felt a little bit lost when creating Quirk Bootknocker. I don't know why. It's just that's my. But gameplay was a lot of fun. And again, this is another one of those games where, like Tales of the Valiant, where first level, you feel righteous. You can do some crazy stuff. Giacomo, being able to do Misty Step in that one battle, I think if I'm remembering properly, I was able to do like a Misty Step over to get within range and blast that chick with a lightning bolt who was trying to pick us off with her crossbow.
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah.
I think I did something like that.
Yeah, you did all
So
in
it's
one
like,
round. Yeah.
yeah. How many first level characters get to do that?
Yeah.
You don't. So you feel way more effective. You feel, and of course, Colton complained, about the squishy wizard getting involved in combat, but it's like, well, our our tank
That was
can't
fun.
handle everything. Yeah, our tank can't handle everything. So Giacomo's got to get in there and start,
And
doing what he can.
yeah. And to DC20's credit, other people can use skills to help protect your character, right? Like Pat's character,
Yeah.
Cassandra was constantly doing the shield effect on you, and you were doing shield effect yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice touch for teamwork and stuff. So you don't have that kind of classic 5e, like it's not my turn,
Yeah.
what's on the phone, scroll or
I don't want to spend too much longer on DC20, but that is one of the things that people said is it gets people engaged when it's not their turn because there's things you can do off turn. But I think Daggerheart does that too because at any
100%.
moment you
I was
can
just
go
gonna
in
say that.
Daggerheart.
Daggerheart
Yeah.
does that as well.
That seems to be a
you're more
trend.
engaged because
Yeah.
there's not the same initiative. Whereas like, oh, I know my initiative order and so just went. So I don't know. I'm gonna have at least 2 more turns before us. 3 other characters get to do something, and then there's 5 bad
Right.
guys. So I'm just gonna sit here and drink my beer for the next 10 minutes until it's my turn again. Like these new
Yeah.
systems have you more engaged in the entire combat, which I really like.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't think Tales of the Valiant solved too much.
But I didn't change the rules enough. Now the GM book does have more optional rules. I don't know, maybe there are optional rules and the same rules in 5e. I don't know, but they had some stuff in there that was different. And I know that they were wanting to do more different stuff in their defense during playtesting. They were trying to do like doom points with monsters and stuff like that, and they got pushback from people. So, and they were probably trying to make this. They had a lot of third-party partners for it with Black Flag, so there's probably a little bit of like trying to make sure everybody's cool with it, and maybe that's why it played it so safe.
They were answering to the man.
Yeah. So there are lots of other games out there, of course. I do want to so Shadow Dark is one I've heard a lot about because it's won some awards. I've not played it yet.
We should
Pat,
play that. Yeah,
I would love to play it.
Yeah, it's similar to D&D. It's rules light though. You don't have all the skills. You have your attributes. Something that our DM did, and I don't know that it's actually in the. I don't own it, but I'm going to here soon. You were talking about like the luck system where you have like a token that you can use like as a resource. It was something that we all had, and if you ever have a bad roll and it's something that you wanted to be epic, you can spend your token to re-roll whatever that is, whether it be a save, a skill check, or whatever. You can also give that to someone else. So again, it has that element of keeping you engaged, even though it has your traditional initiative. Everybody rolls for initiative. As long as you have that token that you can use as a resource, you're paying attention to everyone else's turn, and you're like, you know what, you should re-roll that, or you should remake that save because and that was a big takeaway for me. And also it was again rules light in that there were many times where we were narrating what we wanted to do, and he's like, you don't even need to roll for that. And we're just like looking at each other like, wow, like typically if we were playing any other system, we'd have to make a skill check to do this. But he's like, you're competent enough at this. You do this all the time. So you throw your grappling hook, you climb up the wall, you sneak across the room, you grab the thing and you leave. And there's no reason for you not to be able to successfully do that because you explained it exactly how I pictured it in my mind's eye, and you just do it. So, and then the way the stats are done and the ancestries are cool in that it's not your typical like in D&D where dwarfs are stout, they have a high constitution. Elves are your favorite word, new word, Marx, Dexy.
So Dexy.
Yeah. And this is doesn't matter what your ancestry is, you pick your stats regardless of your ancestry. Then there's other things like backgrounds, like the backgrounds are like there's a table you can roll on to like determine your occupation. And so like you have a background and you have an occupation. And I think I played a minstrel who was like the rogue class, but like they don't call it rogue. Like you can choose like whatever flavor you want. So you could be like a padfoot or a burglar or a pickpocket. And so like you're basically fine tuning your class as part of the character creation. So yeah, we should definitely give that a run.
Yeah, I was looking at it. It's on backorder apparently.
And it's one book. It's one little book. It's not like, you know, the spells are really cool too. Like it's, you know, the spell is like similar to Daggerheart. It's like it's a card. It's a paragraph.
Oh, cool.
And it's not, you know, crazy.
And I think there's some third parties making stuff too.
Yeah, and of course the woman who did it, she won all kinds of awards at the the
3 Castles
Ian Worlds,
and Ennies,
yeah,
4 gold
Ennies. She won the Ennies.
It's not a belly button thing.
Yeah, not an Ennie.
I won the Audis. Yeah, I think that's one to check out. I'm curious to see like how it maybe grows.
We should try it. Maybe we're just not on the right path, and that's really the killer.
You never know. We could try it out and we'll do.
It even has the traditional art that D&D used to have.
Yeah, and there.
What?
These are the characters my son and I played. We were both rogues. I was the orc, or I was the orc, and he was the dwarf. And like, look how cool traditional, like old school, D&D art it is.
Yeah.
And there is a simple character sheet. Like that's your character sheet.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. That's crazy.
And we had a blast. So you have a title in the background, and I was using the wrong terms, but
there's been a lot of OSR games, and Dungeon Crawl Classics is one that's kind of wild. But I feel like growing from that, Shadowed Ark is maybe like the new big OSR type game that's growing.
And this does have elements, having played Dungeon Crawl Classic DCC, this does have elements of that. Like, for example, you don't have equipment, you have gear, and you have gear slots. And so you have a finite, and that's based on your strength. However, so if you have a 10 strength, you have 10 gear slots. If you have a 14 strength, you have 14 gear slots. That's how much equipment you can carry, as opposed to having encumbrance like with weight. And you actually are supposed to keep track of stuff. If you shoot arrows, you keep track of your arrows. Torches, it's actually in the book. You carry a torch per slot, and it's a finite resource, and it adds this element of time to the game. You light a torch. In real life, you're supposed to set an hour timer, and when that hour timer is up, your torch goes out.
Damn it, we just spent an hour arguing about rules.
The GM was telling me when they play online, everyone has their own timer, and when you light a torch, there's a little timer that shows up above them that starts counting down that 60 minutes. And when that torch goes out, it's like, okay, and there's no dark vision. So that actually adds that element of, okay, let's
there's no dark
guys,
vision.
because there's no dark vision. So everyone's reliant on that source light and that light source. And the same with the light spell. You cast a light spell, 60-minute timer starts.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be dangerous and dark with the monsters and stuff in that world,
that's
right?
the idea. It's like they add that element of there's a clock ticking. It's not like we can all see in the dark, and that's never an issue, and we don't have to worry about lighting a torch. It's like, no, the torch is actually a thing, and it's a game element.
Professor Dungeoncraft did a good video on this. I need to go watch it again. I watched it once, but I forgot.
I'll have to check it out. I know there's, as I mentioned, Dungeon World. I think that one's kind of not going to grow a whole lot more, but there's a lot of spin-offs from it. There's one game I got called Perils of Ruin. It looked kind of interesting because it looks like it's like Powered by the Apocalypse with a little Blades in the Dark, a little D20. They actually use a D20 die and stuff. It was an interesting game. They did a Kickstarter, but again, they don't have like, there's sort of like this unofficial PBTA kind of open gaming sort of kind of thing, but not really. And so, they didn't make any Creative Commons or OGLs or ORC. So I think it just kind of like, it wouldn't grow. Right. So I feel like you need that if you want to become a major market player. So one other game I want to mention, and then I'll let you guys mention any other games, because we play BRP and stuff with Call of Cthulhu is I like that game system a lot, and I haven't played it yet, but they do have fantasy versions of it called Ruin Quest from Chaosium, and which has been around since 1978, I think, somewhere around there. And then Mythras, which is like a spin-off, originally Ruin Quest 6th edition. It actually has all different kinds of genres, but they also have a fantasy version, and then they have a classic fantasy, where they, because it's a skill-based system, the classic fantasy the classic fantasy has classes you can put on. They're like old school vibe classes from D&D you can put on them, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. Any other games you guys want to mention?
All the games I've played, I played with you all.
I haven't played Savage Worlds in a while, and I'd like to give that another go. But I'd like to do a non-fantasy setting. I'd like to do some other popular fiction, like choose a not superheroes and not Star Wars, and not like sci-fi, but
I'm gonna do gangsta.
You could do Star Trek. We could do Star Trek.
There is a Star Trek game, but yeah.
You could use Savage World and do Star Trek 100%. Have a ship, be on a mission. The USS, I don't know.
Savage.
Minnow. You say Savage, I say Minnow. We're like, woo.
That's really USS Dexy.
Where the entire crew's dexterity score is at least a 12.
Yeah, they just do like cartwheels and flips down the hall.
Yeah, they don't walk. They cartwheel.
No, they parkour everywhere.
I can't think of another game that I've played that stands out to me anyway.
Well, I can think of other ones. I'm trying to stick to epic to fantasy in my particular example.
Yeah, especially epic fantasy.
Yeah. What did you gonna say, Chaz? Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, if I could, I'd like to mention a good friend's game that I'm actually playing and helping them play test is Cyber Symbiosis. Now, this it's a 5e compatible game. Yes, there you go.
The comic that is based on.
Yeah, it's a 5e compatible game, and it, as is, has most of the elements that you could want to do just about anything with, because the setting of the story is the setting for basic cyber symbiosis is like the 2300s, sort of like the early Star Trek years, but we don't have that level of technology. But mankind has expanded out into space. There are colonies on Mars, and I think, did you say Jupiter or something like that? Or anyways,
the asteroid belt.
That would make sense.
Yeah, the asteroid belt. Yep. But then there's a rift that opens up, an interdimensional rift that opens up, and classic fantasy characters come into the modern world: elves, dwarves, all kinds of stuff like that. And in the time that I've been playing with him, and I mean it's for sale now. You can buy the core book, right now. I'm sure. We've done all kinds of things. One of the first missions I ever did was we were battling orcs on Mars using, lightning bolts and shotguns. I'm sure there's.
It makes me think a little bit of Shadowrun, where they have, it's futuristic, like cyberpunk, but also they have like the elements of orcs and elves and dwarves and dragons, and
Shadowrun
magic,
like
and you have high technology, or like cyberpunk technology, and also like the fantasy magic.
Yep.
Sounds really cool.
He's got all of that. You could play anything from, a warlock to, he doesn't have a paladin type of character, but you could be like a battle mage kind of character. I've played. My favorite character from that was a Jewish wizard who had law skills. Exactly. Yes. And my favorite line was, because I had this spell that he put in there called weaponized humor, And at low levels, you can cast it on somebody, and if it's successful, they'll become disabled with laughter. But once higher levels come along, you can actually damage somebody. You can actually kill somebody. And my favorite line became, "Don't make me be funny. You wouldn't like me if I was funny." And then I hit him with that spell, and then it's all over with. So, so
And you say this is based on it's a setting based on 5e, or is it its own system?
The setting is its own. The rules are based on 5e.
It's
it's
5e
compatible with 5e. So the game system itself is very similar. He's had to change some of the things because of the rules, and now we've taken that same system, and he's expanded it so that we're playing an Orville game. We're once a month we're playing an Orville game publicly, and then every other Friday night we have like a second.
I triggered Chaz in a good way
game.
when I brought up Star Trek, and I love it. You know what would be really cool to do? Firefly, be brown coats, just go out in the black and find the shiny. You know what I'm saying? All about it.
You can do that with CyberSim. I'm sorry, Pat. You can do that with CyberSim.
Yeah,
you can do that with Cyber Symbiosis with the Orville stuff, because he's already touched on. He doesn't get into Star Wars with it, but he touched on the Orville, Star Trek.
How do you deal with magic
thing called
Start in Orville?
There was some other YouTube series that was doing like a Star Trek parody, kind of thing.
No, I know what Orville is, but I'm saying what. How did he deal with magic in the?
There really isn't any. There is no magic in the Orville game. You can be a psychic, but you have to be human. None of the other species are psychic, and it's rare. It's very rare.
Yeah, so you basically house rule it to where to meet the rules of this setting, you don't have certain
magic.
Right.
I was in
low magic, right?
I guessed it on episode 5, 4, something like that.
Yeah.
So I played a I can't remember the Super Strong race that's in there.
The Salayans. The Salayan,
yeah.
Oh,
the ones that have heavy gravity on their homeworld.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, his game system was going to be 5e, and then that whole GL thing happened, and he wasn't sure where that was going to land. So
I got to make my own now.
He rewrote it. I mean, it's very 5e-ish, but it's all different terminology, different enough to be its own rule system. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. But if you know 5e, you're gonna slot right into this and feel perfectly comfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, Cyber Symbiosis. I played a gnome wizard that didn't like modern technology, so he was like going around with a flip phone and crap. It was kind of funny. Yeah.
A wizard with a flip phone. I love it. Did you have anybody with a cyber screwdriver?
Oh,
we could probably
Sonic screwdriver. Yeah,
Sonic screwdriver. Yeah.
We could probably get him if he wanted to guest star. Probably. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
try it.
That'd be good.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. And any other last closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
So we're gonna play Shadow Dark.
Yeah, we're playing Shadow Dark at some point for sure.
At some point, we have to add that to the queue. And we're
DC 20 has a chance.
I'm sorry, what's the name of it? Symbiosis.
Cyber Symbiosis. So I think Shadow Dark, or I think DC 20 has a chance of taking a significant market share. The more I learn about Shadow Dark, the more I think maybe that could too. But they take the opposite people. Like Shadow Dark's probably going to take the people who like the more rules light part of 5e and don't like the Pathfinder. DC 20 is going to take the people who like the Pathfinder rules heavy, but like it closer to 5e, and so they take different parts. Probably.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is going to steal, an overwhelming percentage of the market share. I think it's going to pull different. The Daggerheart's going to pull the people who like more whimsical anime type setting, who or want like a lighthearted thing. Shadow Dark is going to be more of like people who want to do like dark, gritty dungeon crawl, old school stuff. D20, I think, is going to be suited for people who want to do things other than high fantasy, potentially.
Yeah, and there's one wild card here, which is what does Wizards of the Coast do in the next 5 years? Like they're already talking about getting rid of their books, right, and going completely digital. I think that might have a big effect on what happens too. So,
Sure.
who
Yeah,
knows?
that could alienate some people. It also could alienate people from other games too if they all become if new players funnel in through that,
which is what they
D&D
want.
Beyond. That's what they want. That would be a shame though, because it would hurt the whole.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they want. Yeah.
Yeah, they've even talked about how they're making the rules a bit more harder to do pencil and paper and easier to do with online tools for obvious reasons. So I don't know. A lot depends on what they do, I think. And if we already saw the effect of the OGL, if they do something else that big, maybe there could be a D&D killer. But as of right now, especially the release of 2024, I think the release of 2024 would kill anything like Tales of the Valiant, because it's like you get the same thing from 2024 pretty much that you get from Tales of the Valiant. And so yeah, I think I don't know.
Yeah,
it depends what they do.
To be continued.
I have to agree with you, Greg. The biggest and most potent D&D killer could be themselves.
Yeah, is Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
Hasbro. Even the CEO said that they think they never. No, not the person that head of Wizards of the Coast said they don't feel like they ever need to actually play the game, and that they want to make
rubbish.
a video. Yeah. So the biggest killers themselves. Yeah, for sure. But we'll see if they play it safe or not. If they play it safe, I don't think anything's going to be a D&D killer.
Yeah. Well, to see where it goes. I hope it doesn't. But I do have to say that it's been a very exciting time the last 5 years or so of explosion of different games.
So many new games.
Yeah. And I'm surprised, and maybe this is another wild card, maybe not now, but maybe a couple of years down the road, is the ORC license. Because I'm surprised more people aren't playing with that yet. Because you technically could make something that uses elements of Pathfinder with Mithras and basic role playing system and Tales of the Valiant and stuff. And I haven't seen that anybody try that yet, and or at least not to my knowledge. Try to make something out of that yet. I mean, maybe DC
Pathfinder lore. Okay, I didn't know I could do that. So I can make a system that uses Pathfinder lore, and there's no issue.
Well, the rules. So ORC license means like all the rules, at least that's identified in the game. It's even more rules usually than OGL you can use, as long as it's not identified as product identity or as IP. So their lore, I mean, it's just like with D&D, like a lot of the generic monsters and stuff you could use, but you'd have to make your own world.
You can't, because that's their own. And
but you can always make something else. So, there's mine. Oh, there's a advanced 5e or level up 5e level up game system out there that I've heard about but I haven't played. And they have like mind slayers that look a lot like mind slayers.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's like, well, you could take some Pathfinder, you could take some of the D100 stuff if you wanted to. You could take a bunch of different. You can mix and match Creative Commons stuff like from PBTA and stuff if you want to.
Yeah.
So that's something maybe down the road somebody will do more of, and we'll see. But not yet. But anyway, and it would never have existed if they hadn't ticked everybody off with the OGL.
Nope. Which is great, because it opened up so many new stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of great creative stuff out there.
Anyone watching this, the biggest takeaway I think is try Daggerheart.
Or
it doesn't
DC20.
get the popularity it deserves, I think, though. Like DC20 gets the popularity it deserves, I think. Daggerheart, not so much.
Yeah,
it's a unique game that doesn't seem to get the popularity that it deserves.
Yeah, and it's perfect for playing online. So you don't even have to get out of the chair you're sitting in right now. You just call up your buddies,
go to Demi-Plane, and you can make
Demi-Plane and create a character, or 4, like I did. Use all 4 of your free slots.
I mean, I guess the big thing is don't just play D&D just because of D&D. Try other games out. You don't have to give up D&D for it, but just try different kind of games or different experiences. So you never know what you'll enjoy.
And look up Cyber Symbiosis. It's
and stay tuned for more of DC20 and Daggerheart on this channel, and
probably Shadow Dark at some point.
Shadow Dark. Maybe Cyber Symbiosis now. I don't know.
Yeah, you can do that.
Just playing everything live on TV.
All of it. Let's do it.
Yeah. You
yeah,
want
but
to explore all the options.
And if I don't forget, I will try to put links to all these things we mentioned down in descriptions if you want to check them out. I'll try to remember that. All right. Well, I think that's it then. So thanks a lot, everybody, for watching. Hope you learned some new stuff. And hey, if you disagree with us or agree with us or want to mention something we forgot, that's a cool game out there. You know, our comments are open. Check it out. We do respond, and we love hearing from you. So
tell us what the name of our ship should be.
Yeah, our Star Trek ship.
Oh, and Star Trek. US. It has to start with USS.
And everybody put Dexy in the Urban Dictionary. I think it needs to catch up.
It'll be the USS Spacey McSpaceface.
Well,
all right.
It's better than mine. USS Ding Dong. But that's...
All right.
I'll tell you the shape later.
We can guess.
We better end this recording. It's getting
Wow.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Good night on that note.
Good night, folks.
When the dice roll high, we touch the sky.